Hello guys, we're back at our Chaise Lounge Chair build. Today's, I guess the next few steps are going to be kind of assembling this together, putting that part together, and then we are going to start kind of building the actual top part of the chair, which is over here. And this is the backrest that will adjust and fold up and down. So we're going to start cutting out that material, maybe do a little bit of assembly on that. But really the first steps are really just putting this base together. I've got my cut list ready. We did the yellow pieces last time. We're going to do the orange pieces this time. Kind of get going on things. You guys' assignment, your task with this particular video, I'm just going to ask that you jump onto our Google Classroom, watch this video, and then comment with anything, any new techniques you learned. If I did something that maybe you wouldn't have thought of doing it that way, you can make a comment about that. Really any comment you want pertaining to what we're going to do in this video today. I want each of you to try to come up with something different that somebody else hasn't said. So it's definitely advantageous to get your work and get it done early so that you can respond before everybody else does. It might be a little bit harder to come up with something different to say once the whole class has gone through. But we did, we lost our seniors last week, so we'll have a lot less students to make comments on these next few steps. So it should be a little bit easier for you. Again, I don't want this to be a huge pain for you. I'm not trying to crush you guys with homework. So I thought maybe just watching this video and making a few comments would be the easiest way. So I'm going to go ahead and get started, then we'll tune back in with our video once we get all set up. One of the things I've been kind of thinking about and toying around lately with some of the projects that I do is trying to do a little bit more work up front that will save me some sanding and finishing work in the end. And so what we're going to do on the different parts of our chair is we're going to try to put a little round over edge. We'll see if I can give you a little bit of a view there. So we've got a 1/8 inch round over in my little palm router. And so I'm going to kind of very carefully round over certain edges of this chair. So for example, these are going to be the legs, right? I'm going to round over these sides, these edges, so that when you were to grab the chair, these would be smooth. I'm not going to round over the edges where the other parts are going to get put down on top of them. We'll get to that later. But I am just going to round over these edges here where you would touch it, and hopefully that will save me some sanding later on. So we just got done doing one of the sets of legs, and you can see here, hopefully. All I did was round over these edges, just a slight amount. And so that'll just make it a lot easier to sand when the time comes for that. I've got a bunch more to do because we're making 2 chairs, but so I'll just show you that one, and then we'll catch back up on the next steps. Back again with our same 1/8 inch router bit. This time we're gonna do these long rails. I'm just gonna do the top and bottom edges, and that's all we gotta do there. Okay, we're back. We just finished rounding over that slight 1/8 inch round over on all of our pieces that are going into the chair. And what we need to do now is create a way to assemble our rail and our legs. Okay, so when the rail is going to go in here, and a lot of that weight is going to sit right on top of those blocks that I decided to add. So my rail is going to sit right on top of there. I need a way for it to screw into this. I don't really want to see the screw head on the opposite side of the chair though. I want it to look nice and clean. So we're going to use our Craig jig. I've already got part of it set up. Basically what we're doing, because it's this kind of big, weird, awkward board, instead of using the normal jig that we can do for all this stuff, I'm using, basically it's like a quick setup here. So this just clamps to your board. Your bit works exactly the same. Now I'm going to go in there and drill my kind of pilot holes in order to use the Craig jig for this assembly. All right, so what you can see here now, I've got 2 pocket holes on the top, and I did 1 on the bottom, and that will allow me to hopefully successfully attach my legs to the bottom of this. So I'm going to do the other ones, and then we'll get right back together. All right, we're back here now, ready to actually begin some of the assembly. My Craig jig holes have been drilled. I've done my 1/8 inch round over to kind of help out with some sanding here a little bit later on down the road. And now you're going to see me kind of start to hopefully dry some screws and get all this kind of going together. All right, so that's what it looks like. Maybe not the best view in the world. That's just the base kind of frame looks like. I'm gonna do my other chair and then we'll talk about next steps. Okay, we are back. We've got our two bases assembled, and not that you guys would have to worry about making two, you'd just be worrying about making one, but we're making both the chairs, and so we've got those assembled. So kind of looking a little bit closer at our cut sheet, I've now got to get into the orange highlighted parts and make some of those in order to be able to construct this kind of chair bed here that we see right there that will eventually then get sat on top of our base. So we want to get going on that. And so to make those parts, I actually took some time here and wrote down a few steps. So I'm going to follow this, and that's basically what our video is going to cover, these next little bits here. And so I'll kind of break it up as I do each one of these, all right? But the one thing to pay attention to are my material over there I'm going to make do with. Again, I'm kind of using up the stuff that was left that you guys wanted ordered for your different projects. And so I'm using 2x8s. And so a 2x8 is actually 1.5 inches thick by 7.25 inches wide. And then I have two 8-footers and two 12-footers. And so we're going to be using that to construct these different pieces out of here. So it might look a little bit different if you were using 2x4s or something like that we've talked about before. Some of those 12-foot pieces. We'll be getting that all out of these. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 12-footers and I'm going to cut them down to 23.5 inches long so that they're just way easier to work with. And then I'm going to plane them each when they're smaller sized like that. So that's kind of my first step, and you'll be seeing that in just a moment, and then we'll kind of pick back up. And now we have all those pieces cut. There are 14 of them. And so remember, you'd only need like 7 of them if it were, you were doing this one chair. And what we're going to be making are the seat slats. And so in the end, they're 22 1/4. I cut them to 23 to give myself a little extra. And the next thing I need to do is worry about planing them to 1 3/8. So if I look at my steps I wrote down, I cut all my pieces to 23.5. I cut it down a little shorter than that. And then I'm going to plane all inches to 1 3/8. Got one piece through the planer. Hopefully you can see there I'm at exactly 1 3/8. I'm going to do the rest of them, then we'll get back together. Got to speak up a little bit, had the vacuum going. That was all dimensional lumber, and so the thing about dimensional lumber is that it already comes with the squares, the sides squared up. So I don't need to joint those right now. What I am going to try to do is start cutting them down to the right width, ripping them down. And so what you're going to see me do first is cut one edge off my bad edge, then flip it around and it'll be at 3 1/4, and I'll run them through and create all those to 3 1/4. So I've got 2 done now at exactly 3 1/4, exactly 1 3/8 thickness. And then later on, we'll go and cut those to length. Just wanted to show you those. I'm going to do the rest of these. Okay, everything now has been ripped and planed to our proper sizes. And now we're just going to cut it to length. So what I'm going to do here, and I'll kind of spin this camera a little bit so you can maybe see the whole process. On the DeWalt, the yellow miter saw, I've got that set up to cut at 90 degrees. And so I'm going to take one end, and I'm going to take just a small, like a hair worth of a cut, square one end. Then I'm going to flip it. And down there you can see that I've got a clamp set up, and that clamp's going to work as a stop. So then I just take that end, slide it into my stop, and cut it. And then I can repeat that process, kind of guaranteeing that all my pieces are going to be the exact same length. So that's what you'll see in this next little series of videos. I'll do a few of them, then I'll stop it. Okay, so we're back, and we are going to now set up the Craig jig to drill all these seat slats, pocket holes, so that they can attach to our rails to kind of form our bottom. Our material is, where are we here? 1 3/8 material thickness. which means that we're going to be using a 2-inch screw. And then when we set this up, we're going to use this stop and we're going to use the 2-inch screw line. So we've got this here. We slide our drill bit adjuster in there, and I want the tip to go into the 2-inch spot. So I have the ring, the stop collar loosened. Don't forget, like I just did, to adjust this back thing. So now I have that set up, and now I'm in the 2-inch spot, right where I want it to be. And now I can lock in my collar here to make sure that our bit stays the same. And so now everything is set up for our particular holes that we have to do. So last couple things here, when you're doing these, you want to inspect your seat slats, and I want the holes to go in the worst side. So I can tell that this side's my bad side, and so I want to drill it like this. And to adjust this, I hold it in here, I just slide that forward, and then I am ready to clamp it down, which is a lot easier when you have it clamped to the table. So then you don't have to worry about holding this down and doing all that. And then I'm ready to drill my holes. So what I'm gonna do now is turn back on the time lapse here, and I'll do 4 or 5 in the video, and then we'll come back together. Okay, kind of forgot to video one thing for you guys. You can see here, I went ahead and made those rails. I did it the exact same way we did the other parts. I planed them down to 1 3/8. I ripped them to 3 1/4. I just got down the miter saw cutting both ends to get it to exactly 78 3/4, just like our plan calls for. So the rails have been cut out. The seat slats have been cut out, which you saw. We have the Craig jig holes in them, which you saw. So basically we're ready to assemble our seat slats into these rails. What I'm going to do first is the same thing that we did on some of the other pieces though. I'm going to take that slight round over along these, and hopefully that again allows them to be a little bit nicer when it comes to sanding and things like that. So I'm going to do that quick. I don't think we need to put that on video. Maybe I'll do 1 or 2 on video, and then we'll go back from there. Okay, so I started off in that video and I took a little bit of a round over off the edges here, the corners. Then I flipped it to just the one side. Don't have to do the bottom side, just the top side. And then I went all the way around the ends and the sides to give us a little bit of a round over. So I'll need to do that to all my pieces. It's a little bit time consuming, but I do think it'll kind of save us in the end though. Okay, so I think for our last step that we'll do in this video, like I said, I've rounded over all 4 sides of the seat slats. And I also went ahead on my rails, which are the long pieces. I went ahead and rounded over all 4 sides and the corners of this as well. So what we've got now is we'll be ready to head into assembly. And that's where we'll pick up on our next video. So I hope you guys are well, enjoying. It's beautiful out. It's like 85 outside here at the school. Just kind of wrapping up here, and talk to you guys soon.